Have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? I know I did before I started this. I had tons of questions that I didn't have the answers to. How do I record an episode? How do I get my show into all the apps people, like to listen to? How do I make money off of it? Really, and all these answers were simply answered by Anchor. Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcast. Best of all, it's 100% free and ridiculously easy to use, and I cannot specify that enough. It is so easy, especially for somebody like me. I'm lazy. Although I am tech savvy and I can do all this manually myself, I don't want to. So it's great. And now Anchor can match you up with great sponsors who want to advertise on your podcast. So that means you can get paid to podcast right away. In fact, that's what I'm doing right now by reading this ad. And, as people listen to this ad and listen to my podcast, I will get more and more money to this and, hopefully maybe be able to be self-efficient with this. So if you always want to start a podcast and make money, go to anchor.fm/start. It's anchor.fm/start to join me and a diverse community of podcasters already use Anchors. And can't wait to hear your podcast. Welcome to the Kaha Club. Roll up. Let's take a rip. Never tell you the world is yours. Yeah, bish. Hello, this will be MMA 19. And I'll primarily be talking about the fights that occurred this past weekend on June 1st. Saturday from the Ericsson Globe in Stockholm, Sweden. It's UFC Fight Night 153 between Alexander the Mauler Gustafsson versus Anthony Lionheart Smith in the main event. Planning on having a preview episode for this, but wasn't able. I got all the research done, but wasn't able to sit down and record for an hour and pump it out. I guess just a little laziness and a little fuck up on my part, but also, busy with work. We had some production releases this weekend that I had to actually work on, and I actually ended up joining a jiu-jitsu gym this week, and joined on Tuesday and went 3 times already. So far, absolutely loving it, even though I have no idea what I'm doing, and my best move so far is tapping out. With that being said, I'll probably start to do less and less of the preview card episodes, unless they're big fights like the pay-per-view cards. So this fight's coming up this next weekend. UFC 238. I'll do my best to have a preview episode for that. There's some big fights on that card. Obviously, the 2 title fights between the Messenger, Henry Cejudo, versus Marlon Rice, and of course Valentina Shevchenko versus Jessica Ai. And then before that, obviously got Cowboy versus Tony Ferguson. A lot of people want that to be a 5-round fight. I kind of do too as a fan, but I also don't want the guys to take two extra rounds of damage, versus both of them are very dangerous guys. And then, although their next fight wouldn't be until after, or at least who wins, it won't be until after the belt at 155 is unified between Khabib and Poirier. So I guess they kind of know if they win this fight, they're the number 1 contender, and that's probably who they'd have next, the winner of that match. But I don't want to see either guy take unnecessary damage if they don't have to. But nonetheless, it'll be a great night of fights, and I look forward to doing a preview episode and a recap episode once they take place. But as far as these fights that just took place, we'll hop into it. Prelims started at 9 a.m. Central, so 10 o'clock Eastern or 7 Pacific on ESPN2. I did not wake up early. I tried to get some shut-eye, get some sleep, so I didn't see these live. But I actually caught the first fight of the main card live, and then, after that fight, the prelims were able or they were on ESPN Plus to watch through from the beginning. So I started from the beginning with the prelims after I watched that first main card fight. But nonetheless, I'll do my recap from the first prelim fight on. So, first fight of the night was between Joel El Fenomeno Alvarez, who was 15-2, and he's 26 years old. He's 0-1 in the UFC. Lost his last fight versus Damir Ismagulov back in February. And he does have 14 submission wins out of his 15 wins overall. This fellow is Danilo Caterpillar Belliardo. He was 12-3, 24 years old, making his UFC debut. He's on a 6-fight win streak coming in. He's finished 9 out of his 12 wins before this fight. As far as the fight itself, round 1, Belliardo came out, got a takedown, has some pretty good ground control. So I gave him the first round, even though Alvarez did have a good guard, so not much damage was landed by Belliardo, but he controlled most of the round, so I gave him that round. Come out second round, he got a takedown again, but Alvarez was able to sweep him, reverse the position, get on top, and get some ground and pound for the finish in round 2, 2 minutes and 22 seconds in to win that fight by TKO. So the first fight started off with the finish, started off with a bang. Come the second fight was between Darko Stojic, who's 13-1. Oh, and the last fight was a 155 fight. The second fight was with Darko Stojic, who's 13-1. This is a light heavyweight fight. He's 27 years old. I believe this is his second fight in the UFC as he won his UFC debut in July of last year, so almost a year off, versus Jeremy Kimball. He knocked him out in the first round. He's on a 9-fight winning streak. And he was fighting Devin Brown Bear Clark, who was 9-3, 29 years old, trains out of Jackson Wink in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And he actually lost his last fight versus Alexander Rakic, who was fighting in the co-main versus Jimmy Manuwa. He's 3-3 in the UFC, so he's trying to get a win and stay, I guess, get over 500, not stay 500, as he was 500 in the UFC. So it's a very important fight for both these guys in their young UFC careers. As far as the fight itself, round 1 I gave to Devin Clark. I just think he was the busier, more active fighter. He did have a knockdown and a takedown in that first round, so that's mainly why I gave it to him. Come the second round, Stojic had a slam that was nice, and Devin Clark didn't really do too much else, so I gave Stojic a second round. Come third round, Stojic was stuffing his takedowns, and when he was landing shots, they were pretty powerful. They were definitely the most powerful strikes. But I think Clark just had a greater volume and just more pressure overall in that third round. So I did give him that third and final round. So I scored it 29-28 in Devin Clark's favor, and so did all 3 judges. So Devin Clark got that win there to be able to get over 500 in the UFC. And congrats to him. As far as the third fight, we had our first women's fight. It wasn't the only women's fight, but it was the first women's fight of the night at 135 between Bay Maleki, who's 2-0, coming in, versus Eduardo Santana, who's 3-0, coming in. Duda Santana. Bad News Barbie Maleke was making her UFC debut. And Duda Cowboyzina Santana was also making her UFC debut. So 2 fighters making their debut here. As far as the fight itself, I did my notes differently this time, so it's a little harder to find, but we'll figure it out. Just not used to it yet. But first round, Santana had a takedown and control for most of the round, so I gave gave her that round. They did have some straight punches in there that she landed, but I think, just overall, it just wasn't enough to win that round. Come the second round, she got, I can't read in my handwriting half the time, but come the second round, Santana came, tried to take it to the ground, but she Santana tried to take it to the ground, and while she kind of did, Bay, reversed the position, took her back, snuck in her hooks, and then just stayed consistent with getting the choke. And she ended up getting the rear naked choke in that second round, 1 minute and 59 seconds into it. Ended up getting the W there. And it was really nice. And now, I'm not saying I'm an expert or anything, but now that I've practiced a little bit of jiu-jitsu and I know a very tiny, tiny bit, I can appreciate it a lot more in these fights. Now, I knew it was very important, after obviously watching, the first couple of UFCs with Royce Gracie and, this little guy weighing 180 pounds dripping wet, just making dudes that are, jacked and just power punchers and things like that, and just making them tap. So I knew it's a value, but now that I know, I've applied it in my physical world, that I've rolled these guys half my size and they can fucking grapple me and just, basically toss me around like a fucking dummy and do whatever they want with me. So it's super humbling, and it's also, it's cool to see it in a professional atmosphere when you're being punched in the face and shit too, and see that, you can apply it in a real fight and either protect yourself or finish somebody. So it's pretty cool. As far as the next fight is between Nick Hine, who was 14-4 coming in, versus Frank the Crank Camacho, 21-7. Nick Sergeant Hines, 35. He was 4-3 in the UFC. He was on a 2-fight losing streak. Frank the Crank, 30 years old, 1-3 in the UFC. Lost his last fight versus Jeff Neal, who we've come to see is pretty legit. So no harm in that. But both guys, I think Hines 4-3, so it's not as bad. But Camacho 1-3 in the UFC. That's kind of rough. Probably on the edge there of getting cut. So as far as the fight itself, round one, Camacho, I thought had more pressure, more output. So I ended up giving him that round. High did have some leg kicks. He had a nice left, I think it was a left hook punch counter, or maybe it was a straight, I can't remember. But come the second round, Camacho had landed some good knees. He had some nice combos and some body kicks. And, he just really looked great. He looked patient. He was very technical in his approach, and he ended up getting a TKO finish 4 minutes and 55 seconds into the second round there. And I think he asked for a bonus afterwards, but he did not get it. Usually if you ask, you don't get it. And usually on the prelims, anything of substance happens later on, especially in the main cards or in the main event, and you're not getting a bonus. So even though he looked great and deserve a bonus, maybe you should give him that 10K finish bonus that I've been talking about. But UFC's not going to give out money if they don't have to. As far as the next fight, the fifth fight of the night, was between Stevie Braveheart Ray, who's 29 years old, was 6-3 in the UFC coming in, won his last fight versus Justin Aria back in October. He was facing Leonardo Nenham Santos, who's 16-4-1 in his career. This is a 155 bout. The last one was 155 as well. Santos, 39 years old, 5-0-1 in the UFC, has yet to lose. He was a Ultimate Fighter Brazil 2 participant, lost to the semifinals versus Santiago Ponzinibbio. And he's had 9 submission victories in his past. As far as the fight itself, didn't get out of the first round. Santos looked great. He slipped a 1-2. it was just really clear that he, even though Ray had some pretty long arms, Santos knew his reach. He knew when and, the perfect distance to slip out of a guy's strike and then also be able to hit him back. So he slipped a 1-2 from Braveheart Ray. And right after slipping that 1-2, he knocked him out with the right straight. And it was done after that. And, it was a really good performance by him. He got the knockout 2 minutes and 17 seconds in. So it looked real impressive. And he actually got a Performance of the Night bonus there. So he was the one that actually asked for it, I remember now. I think. And after he knocked him out, he literally ran out of the cage, ran, around the crowd, was hyping them up, and then he didn't run out of the arena, but he ran out of, where the seating and stuff is. He ran to the back or whatever. He ended up coming back, and they interviewed him, all that stuff. It's a good performance by him. Got extra $50K in his pocket, so that's always nice. Hell yeah. As far as the next fight, it was a second women's fight of the night, and I believe final, between Tonya Evinger, who's 19-7, ranked number 12, versus Lena Landsberg, 8-4, number 13 in the women's bantamweight division. Tonya triple threat Evinger, 37 years old, but 0-2 in the UFC versus Cyborg and Aspen Ladd. She's former Invicta champ. As far as Lena Elbow Queen Landsberg, she's 37, 2-3 in the UFC. And she lost her last fight versus Yana Kunitskaya back in October of last year. So both ladies are coming off some losses. Have unfavorable records in the UFC so far. But still ranked at 12-13 in the division and looking to, either one of them get a win here. It's, kind of not solidifies their spot in the UFC, but at least, keep them in there for a little bit, for at least another fight. As far as the fight, this fight itself was, just a great performance by Lena Landsberg. I think Tonya Evinger thought she'd go out there and probably, be able to take Landsberg down, and at least when she was able to, be able to control her and just dominate the game from there. And, Lena kind of just turned that entirely on her head. Round one, Tonya had some good cage pressure, but, didn't get too much damage off. Lena Landsberg had a slicing elbow in the clinch on one of the exits from the cage. And then she was able to end the first round on top with some nice ground and pound and some damage. While Evinger had more control that round, she didn't land any punches or any shots or anything like that. And, Landsberg cut her open pretty good and ended the round on top with a very dominant position and some strong ground and pound. So I gave that first round to Landsberg. Come the second round, it was, I don't want to say it was more the same, but Evinger had cage pressure. She did get a takedown, but Landsberg was able to reverse the position takedown, get some more ground and pound and control, and just, heavy punches as well when they were standing up. So even though Evinger got the takedown and had some control there, she landed, again, no strikes or anything like that, no damage. So I gave that second round to Landsberg as well. Come the third round, it was just all Landsberg, cage pressure, knees, ground and pound. And Evinger just looked completely overwhelmed down there. And as I said, it was probably her game plan. Evinger has a very good grappling background. It was probably her game plan to get it at the ground and probably control it there from, start of the bell to the end. And that just ended up not happening. And Landsberg obviously had been working on that. She was ready for it, and she looked great. So I gave her all 3 rounds. So did all 3 judges, and 2 of them actually gave her a 10-8. I'm assuming that last round was probably a 10-8. So she looked good. My bad. I just had crack my neck. My neck is fucking super sore after being choked out a bunch of times. But yeah, Landsberg looked really great in there. Even though she is 37 years old, she looked really fresh out there, and I can't wait to see her fight again. She called it Aspen Ladd after the fight, and I think that'd be a good matchup. Considering I thought Aspen Ladd lost that fight versus Jara Eubanks in her last fight, but it is what it is. So I think that'd be a good fight for both of them. Come the next fight and final fight on the prelims, the featured prelim bout, we had Rustam Courteous Prime Akman, who was 5-0 undefeated, making his UFC debut at 27 years old. At 5-0, he's finished all his wins, 4 by TKO or knockout, 1 by submission. And then we had Sergey Honda Kondosko, also 27 years old, also making his UFC debut. And he's 25-5-1. He's finished 18 of his 25 wins, and he's on a 2-fight winning streak coming into this fight. As far as this fight itself, nice, good back and forth matchup between two guys making their debut, and two guys I think prove that they're at least UFC caliber, UFC roster, stablemate caliber, and deserve a second fight, I believe. In the first round, Ahmad was stunned him towards the end of the round, and I thought he had more pressure and output in there. While Sergey, it seemed like he just wasn't able to find his range. Even though I believe, if I remember correctly, he was the longer guy in there. It seemed like every time he was throwing, even one punch or combination of punches, they were always missing, and Ahmad was just out of the way. So he gave that first round to Ahmad. Come the second round, both guys landed. Sergey had a knee, and he actually ended up getting a knockdown in that round. But Ahmad had some pressure and had a good slipping defense and ended the round on top. But because of the knockdown, I gave the round to Sergey. He kind of stole that round there in my mind. I believe the judge's mind as well. Come the third round, Sergey has some heavy hooks on the escapes, clinch escapes, grappling escapes, but that was really it. Ahmad had great wrestling transitions, and I thought it looked better that fight. Although he wasn't landing the more powerful blows, I thought the output and just the octagon control and pressure was more impressive than the couple strikes that Sergey landed. So I gave the third round to Ahmad, but the judges, I guess, gave it to Sergey, as they all scored it 29-28 in Sergey's favor, which is surprising to me. This is the one decision I didn't agree with on the card. I think the one and only, so it wasn't too bad this week, but it at least should have been a split decision. I don't see how all three saw him that way, and they were probably influenced by the crowd. I think Sergey was a favorite, at least a crowd favorite. This was in Sweden. I think he was from around there. So they were rooting for him. So the judges might have been manipulated by the crowd's response. Anytime one of their, fan favorites or hometown guys would land a single punch, they'd go crazy. Whereas, if the other guy, knocked him down, they go silent. And if you have referees in there that aren't really paying attention, or they're letting the crowd noise and the atmosphere and the, the feel and the electricity and the energy of the arena, grow when their guy does good, but kind of deflates and non-existent when they're getting beat up, that can manipulate a judge for sure. And Paul Felder and Dan Hardy talked about it because they were doing commentary on this card. They talked about how Paul couldn't remember exactly if they did an experiment or not or what the results were, but they had like judges, in a separate room, just watching from TV to judge the fight versus judges in the actual arena. And then Hardy mentioned, at least noise canceling headphones because, the sound in the arena can definitely sway a judge one way or another on who they think is winning. So I think it's a good idea to either, you can have him sitting there in the ring, ringside as usual, but a lot of times when you're that close, you can't see everything, sometimes the fence is blocking or fence posts or cameraman's in the way. So I think it'd actually be better to have them, they can still be on site at the location, but maybe have them up in like a press booth or something like that and have them watch the screens and judge the fight that way and not be manipulated by the sound and the outcome and, the electricity and energy in the arena itself, because it's definitely, it could definitely fuck up a fight, man, and I think it did here. But that's it for the prelims. As far as the main card, we started off between Daniel Tamor and Sun Bing Jo. Tamor 6-3, brother of David Tamor, I believe. He's 0-3 in the UFC coming in, so he definitely wanted to get a win here. Kid Dynamite, 31 years old, lost his last fight versus Chris Fishgold. Actually fights later in the main card. He also lost versus Julio Arce, who I think it was last week, and he fought her the weekend before and looked solid. And Sun Bing Jo, the Korean Falcon, 26 years old, made his UFC debut. Finished all 9 of his fights in his career. This is at 145 featherweight division. As far as the fight itself, Tamar looked great, man. He looked really great. The Korean Falcon had some knees on escape and decent ground defense when it got there. But Tamor had to take down that first round and had some hooks that stunned the Korean Falcon, so I gave him that first round. Come second round, he had more pressure, more output. It seemed like Ben Joe was just a little more hesitant. Maybe the UFC jitters were getting to him, or the power of Tamar when he was connecting with his big strikes, or maybe even just the pressure overall. Sorry, I got the hiccups there, so I'm like, blah, blah, blah. But, it seemed like Sun Bing Jo was more of a distant range fighter, and he wasn't really able to, get that off as, Tamor just kept pressing forward, kept coming forward, no matter what. And Ben Jo wasn't really, getting his jab off or any kicks like that to try to keep him at distance, so it kind of just looked like he was rattling in his game, just took a hit because of that. But Tamor looked great and got the win. I gave him all 3 rounds. One dumbass judge gave a round to Ben Jo, 29-28, but the other 2 gave it 30-27. Good performance by Tamor, and good shit getting his first UFC win. The next fight was between Damir, the Bosnian bomber Hadzovic, and Christos, the Spartan Giagos. Both guys relatively new in their UFC careers. And never would have guessed it'd come this fight. Both guys, I thought, looked pretty solid. But Giagos just looked like the better man there tonight, or I guess last night. Come the first round, he was using some heavy body kicks, leg kicks, had a nice takedown straight into side control, another takedown there in the first round. Hadzovic didn't really do too much. Seemed like he couldn't really get his timing off there in the first round, so Giagos definitely won that first round. Come the second round, Giagos had a nice uppercut. He had a takedown as well, but it looked like he was starting to gas. Hadzovic had He had a well-timed takedown in the last seconds of the round, but that was really it. It seemed like he was definitely starting to gas because he was throwing some heavy punches that just weren't landing him. Not they were nowhere close near Giagos, but Giagos had some really nice defense and just kind of controlled the fight. Come the third round, Hadzovic did defend some takedowns and ended up getting top position, but Giagos did end up completing a takedown, getting some great cage pressure that round. I think just did more overall, so I gave him the third round as well. Judges did not agree with me, while all of them agreed and gave a unanimous decision to Giagos. They gave it, two of them had it 29-27, so they gave a 10-8 round in there somewhere, and the third one gave it 29-28 for Giagos for the decision. So I don't know. I don't even know what round they said Hadzovic won, because I don't think he really did anything. I mean, maybe that third round there just because he got one takedown, but so did Giagos, so I don't know. As far as the next fight is between Marquand Amirkhani and Chris Fishgold. Marquand, Mr. Finland, Amirkhani, 30 years old, 4-1 in the UFC coming in. He won his last fight versus Jason Knight back in May of last year. So a whole year off between his last fight. He lost to Arnold Allen before that. Chris Fishgold, 26 years old, 1-1 in the UFC, won his last fight versus Daniel Tamor, who headed the main card, or was the opening bout on the main card. He lost his debut versus Calvin Kattar, who we've seen in the octagon before. I'm getting tired. And as far as this fight, first round, I actually gave to Fishgold. I just thought, he had some good leg kicks, and he was, although he got taken down by Amirkhani didn't really do too much damage. He didn't really try to improve his position or go for any submission attempts. I thought Fishgold looked really good off his back, and he was chasing submissions constantly off his back and had it close a couple times. And knowing how difficult that is as a white belt beginning and not knowing anything. So, I mean, Fishgold's not that, obviously, but just the fact that he was chasing towards something and Amirkhani just kind of laid on top of him. He didn't throw any strikes either. I gave Fishgold that first round. Other people probably disagree because you'd think, if a guy's on top, that means he's winning. That's not always the case. I get on top all the time in my jiu-jitsu class, but that doesn't mean I'm winning because I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Eventually they take my arm or they sweep me again and have my back and I'm on bottom again. But is what it is. Come out in the second round. Amirkhani, blah, blah, blah. Fishgold had a nice right hook. And, he looked good standing up, but he went for a guillotine there as Amirkhani was trying to take him down, if I can remember correctly, but Amirkhani defended it well, reversed him and got his own choke and actually finished the fight via anaconda choke there in the second round, 4 minutes and 25 seconds into it. So it was a good finish by Amirkhani, way to take advantage of an opportunity and a mistake, tactical error by Fishgold, and actually landed Amirkhani an extra $50K, so congrats to him. Extra $50K in your pocket. That's always got to be great. And great end of the fight. As far as the next fight is a co-main event, as this fight was moved up. As the original co-main event was supposed to be between Volkan Ozdemir versus Ilir Latifi, but Ilir Latifi had a dropout because of a back injury. So that fight was scratched, and this fight between Jimmy Manuel and Alexander Rakic Rakic was moved up to the co-main event, light heavyweight bout. Jimmy Posabori Manawa, 39 years old, 6'5" in the UFC, and currently was on a 3-fight losing streak versus Thiago Santos, Jan Blocks, and Volkan. Debuted back in 2012, so he's been around for a while, whereas Rakic is a new up-and-comer, 27 years old, 3-0 in the UFC, and currently 11-fight win streak. Won his last fight versus Devin Clark, who was previously on this card. And yeah, it was a good fight for as long as it lasted. Essentially, nothing really was really happening. They're filling each other out, getting each other's distance and things like that. And Rakic had nice 1-2. And as he did the 1-2, let's see if I can remember this correctly. He was standing orthodox, so his right foot was back. Hit him with the 1-2. Or he didn't even hit him. He just threw out the jab straight. And as he threw the straight, his right foot came forward. He kind of switched to southpaw there momentarily. And as he switched to southpaw, his left foot was back and he came up with a nice left roundhouse kick to Jimmy Manuel's head. Instantly knocked him out. I think he was unconscious as he was falling on the ground, and then Manuel, of course, hit the back of his head on the ground as well, and he was out for a little while. He ended up recuperating and being fine. Ended up coming to. And just a brilliant knockout by Rakic. If you haven't watched it, just look it up on YouTube or something, or rewatch these fights, because it was a very good performance by him, and he might have a number by his name come next week. And he too, Rakic, ended up getting an extra $50K in his pocket as well. So congrats to him. So after that, you just got the main event left, and the ending of this, it wasn't really spoiled, but as I said, I watched the first main card fight and then went and watched the prelims once they were available. So I wasn't watching this main card live, and I accidentally looked at my phone and saw that Smith had won the fight before I'd actually watched it, but I didn't see how. But with that being said, the first two rounds, I think, although Gustafsson had really good foot movement and was working around the cage, being really light on his feet, and, he did throw some leg kicks in there, but he wasn't really throwing enough. He didn't have too much of an output, and it seemed like his game plan was obviously to circle, stay away, kind of use his cardio and movement, to where Smith wasn't able to land a flurry of combination like he had for Shogun, and get him out of there. But I thought Gustafsson just essentially, he gave away those 2 rounds just by continually circling, running away, and he wasn't running away, but when Smith had him pinned against the cage and kind of cornered him, he'd literally jog away back to the other side of the cage. I don't know, I didn't think he threw enough. Smith was throwing overhands, left and right overhands, off stand switches, and just controlling the octagon more, cutting him off. So I gave him the first 2 rounds just because he has more output. He was pressuring him. He was taking the fight to Gustafsson, and he was landing, although he wasn't landing. He landed some significant strikes, a couple of those overhands, as I said, but wasn't really anything too damaging. But Alexander was landing literally nothing. It was a jab here and there, and very soft leg kicks. And, leg kicks can obviously do damage over time, but they were kind of just touching leg kicks, almost like he was point fighting out there. And come the third round, that it was clear that was Gustafsson's game plan, because come the third round, he started to pressure a little more, and he had more output. He had some good leg kicks. He actually had a takedown and looked a lot more fresh than Lionheart. So I gave him that third round. Come the fourth round, what's his name? Alexander Gustafsson went for a takedown, but Lionheart defended it, got his back, and just patiently, controlled his back, ended up sinking in one hook. I don't know if he ever got that second one in. But, ended up flattening out Gustafsson and ended up sinking in that rear naked choke and ended up getting the finish and ended up getting the tap from Gustafsson and then finishing the fight there in the fourth round, 2 minutes and 38 seconds into the fourth round for Lionheart there, coming up big as the underdog and getting the victory. It was a great performance by him, great ground game, and showed that he's a legitimate black belt. What he was saying earlier in the week that he said he thinks people forgot, and I think they know now. As it's 2 fights in a row where Gustafsson had his back taken and kind of just manhandled into the submission here by rear naked choke, and then obviously versus John Jones. Jones got his back and punched him until it was over. And I don't know if Gustafsson's 100% on his retirement, but he, in the octagon, in the post-fight interview, in the cage, octagon cage interview, he's taking his gloves off. So he took his gloves off. He left him in the cage and walked out. And that's the way the guys retire in the sport. They leave the gloves in the cage. Let the fans know they left it all there, and they're done. While I think it was kind of an emotional moment for Gustafsson, and maybe it was just an emotional response, or is it premeditated? Like, if he can't win and if he gets dominated in this fight, then he's done. Maybe he's done. He's lost, he's had 3 title fights, lost them all pretty decidedly, twice versus Bones. Well, the first one was versus John Jones, and that was a close fight. Some people think he won. I think he won. I think he won 3 out of those 5 rounds. Although John Jones definitely won the last 2 rounds. I thought they won the first 3. But it is what it is. Lost the second one versus Cormier, and then obviously lost the last fight versus Jones where he got dominated. Gustafsson is up there in age now. He's only 32, but he's been fighting for a while. He's 18 and 6 now, so he has over 20 fights. So who knows? He might be done. While I was sad to see him go, if he is done, especially after a fight like this, after a loss, it's a little more difficult. But if he is done, it is what it is, and I'm glad to have seen him fight multiple times in the octagon. He's one of the best 205ers in the world of all time. It sucks he never got. He got a chance to fight for the belt, but never got to hold the belt because he's very talented. He's top 3, if obviously top 5. But I guess that's just the way the cookie crumbles. And as far as those fights, that's not really all I have to say about it. I got a little less than 20 minutes left here before we hit the hour mark, so I'm just going to pump out some of the news or fight announcements that have been made since the last MMA episode I've did. So it looks like we're going to have Chris Cyborg versus Felicia Spencer at UFC 240 in Edmonton, July 27th. Not sure where that is on the card, but that's the card that will be between Holloway and Frankie Edgar. And while I don't think that fight's totally official yet, that's what it looked like. It's going to be Cyborg, Felicia Spencer, and it probably would have been Cyborg versus Megan Anderson if she had won that fight, but she got completely dominated by Felicia Spencer on the ground. So now we'll see if she can do it versus one of the scariest women on the planet. I would say the scariest woman on the planet, but she got knocked out by Amanda Nunes, and now Amanda Nunes is the scariest woman on the planet. She's finished pretty much all the top women's fighter ever. I don't know if she finished Valentina, but she beat Valentina Shevchenko. Amanda Nunes beat Cyborg in the first round, 40 seconds, knocked her out devastatingly knocked out Ronda Rousey, and beat Holly Holm as well. Well, she hasn't even fought Holly Holm, so about to fight Holly Holm, I think. Although not official. It looks like Greg Hardy versus Juan Adams will be a fight. San Antonio, July 20th. That'll be an amazing fight, and that's kind of what I've been asking for. I've been asking for somebody of some stature, of some value to fight Greg Hardy and Juan Adams, although he did lose his last fight. He's a guy that probably cuts down to 265 as well, so he still might have a size advantage. He definitely has the athletic advantage, whereas Hardy's 265 is just straight muscle. Juan Adams definitely has a lot of fat in his belly. So, I don't know. We'll see when it comes to it, and it looks like that's the main event right now. Which is kind of crazy, but that'll be an ESPN card, so it looks like Greg Hardy will actually be tested, and we'll see how it turns out. As far as other fight announcements, we got Corey Sandhagen versus Rafael Assunção, August 17th for UFC 241 in Anaheim. If I remember correctly, that is the card that DC and Stipe will be fighting on. The main event for the heavyweight title in that rematch. And then we also got Nate Diaz is coming back. He'll be in the co-main versus Anthony Pettis. That's going to be an amazing fight. And Yoel Romero versus Paulo Costa is on there. So I had Rafael Assunção and Corey Sandhagen on there as well. That's looking out to shape out to be a good card. Look forward to all those fights. And then we got Sugar Sean O'Malley's finally back after serving his USADA suspension and coming off his injury. He'll be fighting Marlon Chito Vera at UFC 239, July 6th. International Fight Week on that absolutely stacked card. So where are they putting that? Is in the prelims? It'll be in the co-prelim main event, if that makes sense. And that card's just insane right now. John Jones versus Thiago Santos, Amanda Nunes, Holly Holm, Jorge Masvidal, Ben Askren, Jan Blachowicz, Luke Rockhold. Francis and JDS was moved to another card. Got Gilbert Melendez versus Alan Arnold, Sugar Sean, Marlon Vera, Claudia Gadelha, Rana Marcos, Diego Sanchez, Michael Chiesa. That's a crazy fight. Early prelims, we got Edmund Shabazian, Jack Marshman, a couple other guys on there. So that's shaping up to be another great card there for International Fight Week. Here's a surprising fight announcement. Uriah Faber will be coming back, fighting Ricky Simon July 13th in Sacramento. Saw Faber, he's been doing his jiu-jitsu thing, and he fought, I forgot the guy's name, but he fought a young guy, I think it was Nicky Hall, or Ryan Hall. It wasn't Ryan Hall, but Faber will be coming back. I think he's coming back because they're having an event in Sacramento. That's where he lives. That's where his gym is. So it just makes sense. I don't even know if anyone else is on that card yet. Okay. Well, right now the main event is Jermaine de Randamie versus Aspen Ladd. So I guess Lena Landsberg's not getting that fight in so far. In the co-main event, they got Uriah Faber. It just doesn't make sense. Put Faber in that main event spot. Nobody knows. The casual fans don't know de Randamie or Aspen Ladd. But I know what they're doing. They're trying to push the fuck out of Aspen Ladd. And I think, I thought she lost that last fight. And I think they won because they were trying to push her. I don't know. Not a conspiracy theorist, but sometimes I am. When it comes to money. And I think it's very clear that they're trying to push the fuck out of Aspen Ladd. But whatever. is what it is. As far as other UFC news, UFC released 2 guys that were ranked in Justin Willis Elias Theodoroi, which I just don't get. Theodoroi lost versus Derek Brunson in his last fight, even though he had been on a 3-fight win streak before that. 1 loss, he's out. So I don't understand that at all. Yeah, he has an unconventional, unorthodox style, but that's a reason why to keep him in, to see if this shit works versus the top guys. So as this guy's going to go over to Bellator now, probably, and probably be one of their top guys and make a shit ton more money. So good for him. I don't know. I don't get what the UFC is doing there, and I don't get what they're doing in releasing Justin Willis either. Even though I just saw that he was scheduled to fight somebody, but it said that they released him because they weren't able to agree on a date for his next fight. But I feel like Justin Willis says he disputes being released. Vows August return. Has not released him, despite UFC official confirming. Doesn't make sense. It was a big huge attack. I mean, the UFC put it like that there. Yeah, so I don't know. I could have sworn I just saw his name next to fight to somebody next. I don't know. Maybe I'll find it here. But as far as other news, Lear Latifi was out. I already told you, fucks, I started jiu-jitsu. So maybe I can keep learning more and more about that. Maybe apply it to these episodes and just when I watch fights and see where things are available, or actually recognize what guys are doing instead of just being like, oh, why is he doing that? Oh, it's because he's trying to fucking choke him out. But that's really it. The last thing I have is Endeavor, which is the UFC parent company and also represents an NFL and NHL. Filed with the SEC, the Securities Exchange Commission, to possibly go public. And to go public, that means, that the public can buy stock in their company, like in Amazon or Microsoft or Google or whatever, Facebook. So it looks like they started the preliminary paperwork to start that process, and they might possibly go public in the future to where you can buy shares of Endeavor, who owns the UFC and represents a bunch of other organizations as far as sports go, but also entertainment. So that's cool, I guess, if you want to buy a piece of the UFC in the future. But that's really all I got for today. Got a huge card coming up in UFC 238 out of Chicago from the United Center. I will be there live. I won't have an update from the fights live, but I'll be there live. I'll be in the stands. I got great seats. I had been in this arena before. I was in the nosebleeds behind one of the projector screens. It fucking sucked. Even though it's still cool being there, seeing Romero and Whitaker fight for the second time. I saw Lionheart, Anthony Smith fight there for the first time versus Rashad Evans. Saw Megan get dominated by Holly Holm. I saw Tai Tuivasa fight there for the first time. A couple other guys. I can't remember. Colby Covington, I believe, versus, was it RDA? Or was it, no, that was Barboza. No, it was RDA because they're 170. So I really, really, really can't wait for these fights. I'll have a preview episode out later in the week. God damn, the fight's starting off hot. Opener is Caitlin Kukajan versus, Jojo Calderwood. I believe both ladies are ranked. And you got Eddie Wineland fighting. You got Bevan Lewis versus Darren Stewart, 2 up-and-comers. Got Yan Janonan versus Angela Hill. I definitely fucked her name up, but she's an up-and-comer Chinese UFC fighter. But fighting Angela Hill. Ricardo Lamas versus Calvin Kattar. That'll be a good fight. Karolina Kowalkiewicz versus Alexa Grasso. Aljamain Sterling versus Pedro Munoz. I can't believe that's on the main card. Got Tatiana Suarez versus Nina Anzarov. I can't believe that's on the main card. That's like 3 versus 4. That just goes to show you that the main card's stacked. Tai Tuivasa versus Blackney Ivanov. Tai Tuivasa, fan favorite, so he has to be on the main card. Got Jimmy Rivera versus Peter Yan. Jimmy Rivera keeps getting knocked out, so I don't know why he's on the main card. But Peter Yan's a good up-and-comer who deserves a fight versus a top bantamweight. Then, obviously, you got the three great fights at the end of the night between Tony Ferguson, Cowboy Donald Cerrone, Valentina Shevchenko, and Jessica Ai for the women's flyweight 125 belt. And then you got Cejudo moving up for the bantamweight vacant 135 belt versus Marlon Rice after Dillashaw's EPO suspension. And, man, I can't fucking wait. It's going to be a great weekend. I'm actually going up there early. I'm going up Friday afternoon. Check-ins at 4 at the hotel. I'm going to see Joe Rogan do stand-up live, I believe, at 8 o'clock. It's about a couple blocks from my hotel. And then Saturday, you got the fights, and I'm literally, it says 2,000 feet walking distance from the United Center, so I'm fucking hype. Usually when they have cards, they have, like, events beforehand where it's, like, meet and greet with, some of the fighters that aren't in the card, because obviously the guys in the card are getting ready and things like that. But, probably get an email later in the week detailing that, so I look forward to that, and maybe I can give a little more background in my preview episode before that. And I'm really excited. I've been looking, ever since this card was announced that there was going to be another card in Chicago. I bought tickets before I don't even know if there was a main event announced, but I bought tickets and was like, I'm going. I don't care who they announce. And then they added Tony Ferguson and Cowboys. I was like, let's fucking go. So I can't wait. This is a fun weekend. I've been waiting for this weekend for over a month now. As you get into the adult world, when you're in college, every weekend is a party weekend because there's nothing else to do. You don't have any money to go do anything either besides drink cheap beer and get fucked up with your friends. But now you're an adult. Going out and drinking every weekend is fucking super overrated. It's super bad for you. I can't recover like I used to, and I don't have fun drinking. I just make an ass out of myself. I have fun, but then I just drink more and more. I end up just doing dumb shit. End up throwing up in people's cars or whatever. Or just saying dumb shit that, while I think is funny and I think it's hilarious, other people are like, this guy's an asshole. So I don't even know why I was talking about that. But I guess just being a quote-unquote adult, instead of being that weekend warrior like you were in college, it's like a monthly weekend warrior. Once a month or once every 2 months, you have something big planned instead of, oh, we're going to go out to the bars and go drinking tonight. Well, fuck that. I can do that whenever. I don't want to do that. I don't want to waste money and talk to drunk people. It just doesn't sound fun to me. I'd rather sit at home, smoke a joint, watch a movie or something, or hang out with friends or whatever, or go to jiu-jitsu class, or go to batting cages, or go for a run. I'd rather do that than go get drunk around people I don't know and try to get to know them. That just doesn't sound fun to an introverted individual as myself. But I will drive several hours to Chicago, another city, and sit around a bunch of random people I don't know, get drunk, and watch people beat the shit out of each other in a cage. I'll do that, and I'll talk to people and get to know people in that, because it's just a once in a now. It's an experience. Whereas if you're going out every weekend, that's just a thing. You're just doing it because you have nothing else to do to fill the fucking hole in your life. the whole of having fun or enjoying yourself. Whereas I'm going to go have an experience and just add on to my experience passport book, if you will. If you have it's like a passport book, which I don't even have, but like each experience that you have, it's like another stamp. Boom, it's like being in another country. Boom, another UFC event too. Boom, another concert I went to of a guy I like. Or boom, another stand-up show I saw. Instead of, I'm just going to go get drunk again this weekend. I'm going to do it again tomorrow. Just keep doing it. I don't know. That's just me. If you're not like me, then you're not like me. And good for you. The world would be boring with a lot of me's. And I'd have nobody to make fun of. Actually, that's not true. I make fun of myself all the time. I'm just rambling. So I'm going to end it and to save you guys and save myself. So peace. Thanks for listening. I will have a preview episode out. I don't know if I'll have a Kyle High Club regular episode out. I have been in preliminary discussions with the professor here at University of Wisconsin. So we'll see if that comes to fruition, but that won't be for another week or so or two. I'll be back when I'm back, motherfuckers. And thanks for listening. Love you. Bye.